Well, he should get some flack for that. It's not the first time an American president has missed one of these meetings. You'll remember that President Obama missed one, and also that American foreign ministers, including my former boss, Condoleezza Rice, missed a regional a regional foreign ministers meeting led by ASEAN many years ago. Was it Woody Allen, I think, who said that 80% of life is showing up? So for the United States, if you want to be present and you want to project leadership in the region, it's important the President of the United States show up. Having said that, I don't think it's catastrophic. The United States is doing a lot in the region. I think the real challenge the United States faces is that nearly all of its major initiatives in this part of the world, many of which are designed to backfoot China, are in the security and military space. Meanwhile, in the economic rulemaking and standard setting space, the United States has apparently been content to withdraw from most of the major regional standard setting and trade pacts while China itself is applying to join. Or you have Asian countries getting together and settling rules, norms, and standards on a Pan-Asian basis. So the American military role in the region is not in jeopardy because a lot of countries are afraid of China and welcome the American security presence. But if the United States ceases to be a standard-setting nation and is just a country whose companies do business, that's a very different American leadership profile in the region. So that's something that the president, whether he shows up at a summit or not, needs to be mindful of. And I don't see much sign that the politics in the United States around, for example, trade agreements are going to change. For ASEAN, if I could just say one thing about that, we often talk about ASEAN centrality, but the reality is that ASEAN has a lot of structural limitations, starting with the fact that the chairmanship rotates alphabetically. And so countries like Cambodia, which begin with C, are structurally weak chairs. And there have been efforts to strengthen the secretariat. Even ASEAN eminent persons groups have tried to backstop some of these structural weaknesses. But I think over time, if I project out 10 years, President Biden isn't going to be the last major leader who skips one of these things. And ASEAN really needs to begin to address some of those structural challenges as well. It needs to look in the mirror.
Indeed. Evan, let's talk about India. It really seems to be becoming sort of everybody's favorite plus one in a China plus one strategy. And a lot of people are noticing just how fast the relationship has improved between India and the U.S. Of course, the president and Modi met in Hiroshima at the G7 summit. A month after that, Mr. Modi goes to Washington, and the U.S. ends up saying, all right, high-tech G fighter jet engines, we're going to make them in India. We're also going to allow India to repair our naval ships. I mean, this is something that, and this isn't just foreign military sales, FMS, right? This is transfer of technology, something that 5, even 10 years ago would have been unthinkable between the U.S. and India. I mean, I think that says a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think first on the U.S. and India, that relationship's come a very long way. In the Bush administration, I was the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for South Asia. I worked hard on a civil nuclear deal where the United States helped to break the global nonproliferation architecture in ways that enabled civil nuclear development in India. There have been challenges to that process, but nonetheless, it's another example of how technology, not just defense, but technology generally has really been in the lead in improving this relationship. The two national security advisors, Mr. Doval in India and Mr. Sullivan in the United States, are now presiding over a critical and emerging technologies initiative in areas like space that really could move the United States-India relationship a long way. But I think the most important thing to say is the way India is going to try to leverage technology to showcase its global leadership at the G20. For a long time, people used to talk about India as a country that needed to be reformed. But increasingly, India has models and ideas and things that have been tested domestically that can be exported and scaled because they're relevant in parts of the world, especially the global south, like Africa and the Middle East, much more relevant than the models the United States and Europe has. The best example is digital public infrastructure, where India used a personal identification number and a digital stack called India Stack to basically bring millions of people who are outside the organized financial system into the financial system, and the unbanked became banked. So for millions of people, including women, by the way, in regions like the Middle East who are unbanked, India offers models that can be exported. And that's a very different way of thinking about India than the way I think we've traditionally thought about the country. It's to India's credit. It's something this government wants to showcase, and it's something you're going to hear a lot about at this G20 and beyond.
All right.